humans are now hackable animals. You know, the whole idea that humans have, you know, they have this soul or spirit and they have free will and nobody knows what's happening inside me. So whatever I choose, whether in the election or whether in the supermarket, this is my free will, that's over. I try to teach them to think for themselves, because this is the ultimate source of authority. So this is humanism. And it has dominated our world for quite some time now. But in the early 21st century, humanism is facing an enormous challenge. Not from dictators or demagogues, but above all, from the laboratories. Humanism again says that authority comes from our feelings, which reflect our free will, which nobody besides us can really understand. But science now tells us with greater and greater force and authority that this is all a myth. This simply isn't true. There is no free will. It's a myth. Feelings don't reflect free will. Feelings are biochemical algorithms. And given enough data and enough computing power, an external system can understand me much better than I understand myself. In the universe, there are only two kinds of processes. There are deterministic processes and there are random processes. And randomness isn't freedom. That's very, very clear. We are not familiar with anything in the universe which can be described as a free process. Free will, as far as we understand today, is an empty concept that doesn't describe anything in reality or in nature. Humans certainly have desires. They have a will, but they are not free to choose their desires, to choose their will. Very ancient times, all the philosophers and saints and sages tell people to get to know yourself better. It's one of maybe the most important thing in life is to get to know yourself better. But for all of history, this was a process of self-exploration, which you did through things like meditation and maybe sports and maybe art and contemplation and all these things. What does it mean when the process of self-exploration is being outsourced to a big data algorithm? And the philosophical implications are quite mind-boggling. I agree. I mean, the thing about this ability to hack humans is that it has also potentially tremendous positive consequences, and this is why it's so tempting. If it was only bad, then it would have been like an easy deal to say, okay, we don't want that, and let's stop researching or going in that direction. But it is extremely tempting, because it can provide us, for example, with the best healthcare in history. Something which goes far beyond anything we've seen so far. This can mean that maybe in 30 years, the poorest person on the planet can get a better healthcare from her or his smartphone than the richest person today gets from the best hospitals and the best doctors. The kind of things you can just know about what's happening in your body is nothing like we've seen so far. Well, I think this is maybe the most important thing to know about living right now in the 21st century, that we are now hackable animals. We have the technology to decipher how humans, or what you think, what you want, to predict human choices, to manipulate human desires in ways which were never possible before. Basically, to hack a human being, you need two things. You need a lot of data, especially biometric data. Not just about where you go and what you buy, but what is happening inside your body and inside your brain. And secondly, you need a lot of computing power to make sense of all that data. Again, one of the dangers that we are facing today in the 21st century is that computers and AI would be able to replace humans in more and more tasks and maybe push millions of humans out of the job market as a result. The first thing they should realize is that nobody really knows. Nobody really knows how the job market would look like in 2040. So they should be suspicious of all these kinds of advices by people who pretend that they know what the job market would need in 20 years. But the best investment, I would say, is in emotional intelligence and in mental balance and these kinds of skills of how to keep changing throughout your life, how to keep learning throughout your life. Now, how do you learn that? That's very, very difficult. We don't have a college degree in mental flexibility. But these are the most important tools. So whatever you choose, you can go to law school, you can go to ballet school, but you should keep in mind that much of what I'm learning might be irrelevant in 20 or 30 years. So whatever else I'm doing, I should also invest in developing my emotional intelligence, my mental balance, my ability to keep changing and learning and reinventing throughout my life. So maybe to give an image or a metaphor, if in the past education was like building a stone house with very deep foundations, now I would say that education is more like constructing a tent that you can fold up and move to another location very quickly and easily. One of the most important things in my life, and also I think in my scientific career, was the realization of how little I know about myself and humans in general. There were so many important ideas and important facts we don't realize about ourselves. And an algorithm would have realized it very quickly. And you can build algorithms like that today or in a few years. You just need to follow your eye movements. Like you go on the beach, or you look at the computer screen and you see an attractive guy and an attractive girl, and just follow the focus of the eyes. Where do the eyes go and whom do they focus on? It should be very easy. And the algorithm that controls the music that you listen to chooses the songs that are the best fit for your current mental state. And of course, this brings up the question of what is the matrix. What do you actually want from the music? Do you want the music to uplift you? Or do you want the music to kind of connect you to the deepest level of sadness and depression? And ultimately, we can say that algorithm can follow different kinds of instructions. If you know what kind of emotional state you want to be in, you can just tell the algorithm what you want and it will do it. If you're not sure, you can tell the algorithm, follow the recommendation of the best psychologist today. So let's say you have the 5 stages of grief. So, okay, walk me with music through these 5 stages of grief. And the algorithm can do that better than any human DJ. And what we really need to understand in this regard is that what music and most of art plays on, in the end, is the human biochemical system. At least according to the dominant view of art, the modern Western world. We had different views in different cultures. But in the modern Western world, the idea of art is that art is above all about inspiring human emotions. But there is no simple relationship between the economic and material sphere and the sphere of stories and imagination and fiction. And Marxists, for example, have a very simplistic view that the economy, the material basis, comes first, and everything else, all the stories or the ideologies, they are just a superstructure determined by the economic basis. And then you have idealists who think the other way around, that no, the stories, the culture is the basis, and the economy is just a byproduct. And most likely, you have kind of a circular relationship between the two. Each is influencing the other, and you cannot say this is more important or this is more basic. The kind of stories you can tell and convince people to believe cannot be divorced from the technological realities and the economic realities of the day. On the other hand, technology is never deterministic. with exactly the same technology, you can construct completely different societies. With the technology of the Industrial Revolution, you could construct a communist society, you could construct a capitalist society, you could construct a fascist society. The technology itself, the trains, the radio sets, the cars, did not tell you what to do with them. This was the job of the storytellers. On the other hand, the storytellers could not just tell any story they wanted. If you, in 1900, you began to tell a story of some hunter-gatherer tribe, say from 20,000 years ago, it was simply irrelevant to the realities of the people. So you have this tension, this complex relationship all the time, and the technology and the stories, they cannot separate from, they cannot stray away from one another too much.